up everyone? So today we're going to get started on our drift car as we have all of our parts in, as I said in my update video. So here we've got our clutch. On the very bottom we've got our fuel injectors, coolant lines, so that way we can run turbo coolant lines over here. Got a rear main to change. Other than that, we've got a handful of other parts. We've got our chip tune. We've got our aluminum pipe so we can have our intercooler repaired. Solid shifter kit, subframe bushings, subframe collars, and some tie rods. I have to change the steering rack because this one is manual. All power steering lines have been cut and I just want to fix it, take it back to stock. So now we've got our syringe with some oil, got our new injector adapter kits, and we've got us a fresh box of Haas 740cc fuel injectors. Here are our fresh, brand new. So yes, these are correct. As you see at the 3 bar, it is the correct flow rate. So we'll just lube up our O-rings after we pop our adapter kits in the lower portion. Just lube these up and try to press them in. Got one side in the rail hand tight, so that way I can bend this slightly as needed and I can fit the second rail and measure my hose that I need. And now we've got all of our injectors changed. Also got this line here replaced. I'll go ahead and tighten my fuel rail ground before I forget. Now we've got our flywheel changed over. Give it a good spray with some brake clean. And clean it up with a rag. The flywheel has not been resurfaced because I've never had an issue. Nothing catches my finger across. Didn't even check, and I still had my mind made up. It'll just wear my clutch out a little faster. And honestly, for the price of just a new clutch disc versus a machining payout for a resurface, I feel like the clutch disc may just be better. I don't care for switching a clutch, it's no big deal. Doesn't take that long. Here, actually up here, are nice and fancy pressure plate. So we will got our clutch alignment tool here. Get that lined up. Get this bolted on. Find some pressure plate bolts while I'm at. Now the clutch is on. I think the next step is going to be to get my plenum shaved for my #1 cylinder. Other than that, I'm going to look for a clutch fan that's appropriate. Maybe belts. But really, other than that, it's ready to drop in. What's up everyone? Today we are going to get started on pulling a few more things off and replacing the drift car. Right now we've got us another rack to put on. Currently got both the front wheels off. About to spray these, get the cotter pins out, get to dropping this rack, replace some rack bushings, and install power steering lines because this one was chopped right here and had no power steering pump whatsoever. So he bought a pump to put on it, not knowing all that was cut, so never really got to putting it on. After enough persuasion, got the driver's side out. As you can tell, hit it here a handful of times. There was some other marks. Also used this in between hitting it on the top, so that way I didn't damage the nut. This other side didn't come out so easy, so I just jumped to the other side. So I'm coming back, I'll just do the same thing. pretty much what I did is I hit it straight on with the tie rod, so like right here, so that way it would shock it, and as it would relieve, it would just fall down, which eventually it did. About 10 hits here later, and one hit on top with the board in between, she's out. So now, while it's up, what I'll do on the bottom side, here, 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 and here, there will be 4 bolts, maybe 17, 19 millimeter. If I had to guess, I can't remember off the top of my head. And you'll also need to disconnect your wiring from the rack and your steering right there. Now, the rack is out, just like that. Getting hung up on our one cut line here. Other than that, I'm gonna pull that out, pop this one in. I'll just put it in temporarily just to sit there. I won't put these in because I do have 2 brand new tie rods down here, so be perfect. Now we've got the replacement rack in. The steering joint's not tight. We just sprayed this outer tie rod with PB Blaster, cracked it loose, and we've got our new ones here. Pretty much what I'll do is when I have it straight where it is, I just twist it off however many times I need, and I count every rotation. And when I put another tie rod back on, I count the same amount of rotations for installing it. Tie rod's on. My power steering line are in here. I just need to connect that hard line over here and this one to the reservoir. Steering rack, knuckle, tighten. What else? AIV's been deleted, pulled out of this passenger well. All intake piping and stock intercoolers for the time being are mounted up and mocked up. Oil cooler is installed as well. Now what I'm working on, as you can tell by the no power in here, we're about to shave our plenum about right here so we can have clearance for new style injectors and plug. So now that the engine's ready to be dropped, what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace my fuel lines below the fuel filter that come up that are hard to access when you have the engine in, so that way I can be ready to drop the engine possibly tonight. Because I'm just going to take the trans out of my car instead of worry about shaving a bell housing. Right now I'm struggling with getting my starter mount bolts re-tapped and helicoiled and whatnot. I can't find them anywhere, at least reliable ones. Now we found our power steering hose for down here. We'll install that and then we'll get our engine dropped in. Well, our lights are dying on us, but we've got a intake on, we've got our radiator in, got all of our hoses hooked up. These ones are just on to keep dust out. Throttle cable is on, all fuel hoses done, except for this one being tightened. So tomorrow we'll buy our oil cooler lines so we can run them. We'll buy our another fuel line. We'll see what we can do about getting the transmission thrown up in there. I have to take it out of my car to get it in. So I could always just go shave a bell housing, but I don't really want to. A lot of them still need helicoiled, so that's a matter of figuring out. And it's the next freezing morning. So if you can't tell, what we're doing today is we're getting the trans in. I think I'm just gonna shave a bell housing. A crap ton of metal shavings later, and we have our bell housing shaved. I believe it should be good. I may have went overkill, I don't know yet, but I think it's probably just it's absolutely disgusting in there. So now we're going to clean that out, and we'll get our mat out, move the trans over here, get our solid shifter on it, try to see if this bad boy will fit in there. Then out, obviously once we get it on, we have to crank the engine over, spin the flywheel, make sure the flywheel doesn't come in contact with the bell housing. Dust boot. Got us a one-piece clutch line from here. Still wrapped up is our 350Z clutch fork. Part number if you need it. But we'll be upgrading to this to have a more solid pedal feel, which will be perfect for beating on this thing. Is our solid shifter kit. Dust boot, hardware, and shifter stick. New fork is in. Having issues with this boot. When you put it on, sticks out a bit too far, the slave cylinder. And I feel like I can always put it on after the fact, but I feel like the slave cylinder boot itself will be pushing on this, so we'll just leave it off for now. The issue is we're not getting enough tilt, so what I'm going to try to do is hook something up to the engine so I can ratchet strap it and pull it down. So of course, after I put the camera up, trans goes right in. That's how it works. So now that the trans is on, we're going to put a ratchet here on our crank bolt. We're going to turn it over and we're going to listen for scraping on the flywheel to the bell housing. At least one full rotation, I don't hear nothing, so we are solid. Trans and drive shaft are in. Now to fill up my little red line buddies into the trans. So we had a little mishap, which helped teach me a little something. We could not get our fill plug out at all. We did right here. We just pulled the speed sensor out, filled it in there, because it's about even placement. So you'd think it'd start pouring out at the same fluid level. Engine mount nuts in. Now what I'm working on is my oil cooler line, which I have in here somewhere. Oh, it's this line. Hey, look, it about went exactly where I needed it to. So I'll probably loop, see which way is like the flow way, because this is connected to the farthest on the driver's side. So I'll check to see which of these ports I need to go to. I did just confirm that our line here ran from the far driver's side will go to the oil pan. I've had so many things just fight me in this whole journey. I feel like I broke my finger. I don't know for sure, but I was tightening something and it broke loose, or not broke loose, but came off, and I smashed my finger pretty good. So now every time I touch it on something on a certain side, it's just like excruciating pain. Just got our test pipes put on. I mean, really, it's starting to, the underside's definitely about done. So it's the next day. We've got us a little pickup here. Got us 15 gallons of E85. Went ahead and copped a gallon of transmission fluid for our power steering. Extra oil because I only put 4 quarts in. That's how much you needed, and about an oil change if you already have your full system full of oil. Got some brake fluid for my clutch bleeding because they finally have big bottles in stock, and some antifreeze so we can bleed and get the coolant all situated. Alright, and also we have another foot of fuel hose for our in tank fuel pump, and here's the rest for our oil cooler. So we can finally get them squared away as well. Now we get the joys adding our chip to the computer. Removed all 4 screws. Next, we'll remove these 4 and get access to the daughter board. And when you get them 4 screws out, pop this up. And this is your chip. You will use, sometimes I use a flathead on this side to get it started, or a pick, and you work it and you want to remove it as evenly as possible. And just like that, our chip is installed. This is my old one. I'll just keep it in the wrapping that came from the other one, just in case I ever need one to be retuned. So here we have a fuel pump from a 4-seater. Ours is still in the car. Since I just purchased one of these the other day, I'm just going to swap this out on the bench and switch the whole assemblies out. Just like that, we have our fuel pump ready to drop in. So you will have to bypass your fuel pump control unit to do this. Alright, so now we have everything. By everything, I mean everything except fill the trans fluid, fill the coolant. Oh, I gotta put the gas in it. I don't know, I guess maybe I should do that before I turn the key. But what we're about to do is about to power it up, turn the key, see if we're getting power to the fuel pump since we did just bypass it. Other than that, all we gotta do, tighten our T here, hook our MAF up, and I've got my air filter up there drying out, so we're gonna go grab that now. So now we're just gonna crank it without the fuel pump fuse for a couple seconds to get the oil pump priming. Oh, I always forget. Due to getting fuel pressure turning the key, our new air filter that's freshly clean, our ECU with the tune, we're ready for a first start. As you've seen, we just cranked it to get some oil flow. Now here's the real deal. Oh. You can see that little hose clamp is the one I just had the snake on here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to join this and this bottom hose down here so we can skip out this little hard line up here and just jump our leak. Because as I was trying to say previously yesterday when I was filling up the radiator, it started just leaking crazy back here. And turns out I forgot my like 2.5 inch section, as I was just gonna bypass it and go from here straight down to here, but I forgot when I bought the hose. So now I get to try to unhook from right here. Granted, I can just cut it if I want to, so I can just join them together, but that's all that'll need. Other than that, I've got my heater core hoses I've got to hook back up. We've got up here, we've got to finish filling up the radiator, and I do need to get a boost controller still. It's all just looped back together. So I think we're ready to start it back up and see how it reacts. We have put a turbo banjo bolt in here with an idle air control hose that I snipped off an NA hose, the straight portion, because it tapered a lot tighter to the bolt in the middle than where it goes on the port. For our coolant line, we just snaked this hose up here, took the stock under the plenum line, shaved one of the vacuum hoses off, and we just bent it and looped that until we get time to fix it the right way. So after pulling a couple coil packs off and also trying to time it using cylinder 1 instead of the PTU loop, I'm not firing on all 6. I'm not getting anything on cylinder 1 or 3. When I pull this and this connector, no change. This one, and this one all do. Safe to say, I feel like a total idiot. As you can see, we've got a little smokage here. I believe it's from either from all the coolant we spilled yesterday, or it's our new gaskets. We've got new exhaust gaskets, so they always smoke on startup. What it turned out to be, this is labeled 1. And this is labeled 1. But this is the odd thing. It's wrapped into this one. So maybe I'll switch both of these injector clips around, fire it up one more time, and see if that does anything. After we've switched our injector connectors back, I know I need to tighten the belt. Now what I'm thinking, maybe our math sucks. Why is it reading 40 psi after I shut it off? As I run it, it flickers between 50 and 65 psi. I just changed the fuel dampener and pressure regulator. I'm just not understanding what's going on here. So we've taken my poor baby apart. Got our fuel pressure regulator here. About to give her a test run on this Drift Z, so hopefully we can figure out if this is our issue. So we've got our Tomei fuel pressure regulator in. We've got our inline pressure gauge. Don't mind this. This is just, I pulled half the stock system off so that way I can do this. I don't believe my throttle is kinked in any way. Now I've got my jump pack on. We're going to give it a test start. Actually, we're going to turn the key first so we can see what our pressure reads off the rip. Well, it only went to 40 and dropped down. That's a good sign. Already kind of But we recalibrated our TPS to 8.8 ohms between the red and white wire, and I want to say it's like 8.82 after I tightened it. Way better, night and day difference. Car has response now. When I hit the throttle, it doesn't like fall on its face and choke out and die. It actually, it revs. First start after cleaning our plug. Alright, so I think our next step is going to be something to do with the mass airflow sensor, because I notice I can rev it smoothly to 25 and then it'll put out. So in the service manual, I'm currently here testing the continuity between this pin and the ECU. Because you look at it right here and it's missing a pin on the far right with 2 tabs on top, but you look at 2 tabs here and it's missing a pin on the far left. I guess we'll try to do the reverse and see if it helps, because currently we're not getting any continuity. One super dummy mistake I noticed that I made: I hooked up my recirc port wrong. There's one right beside it and I just plugged on the wrong one. I'm going to switch those out. I'll just cap that one off. After some wire rerouting over here, PTU sitting here, got everything not so tensioned up, got my MAF tested, everything's coming back fine, sprayed the MAF. So what I'm going to do now is try to give it another start and see if it's gotten any better. Let's please hope. Now we're going to do exactly what I didn't want to do. Pull the fuel injectors and fuel rail. Pressure test, see what's going on. Plenum is pulled. Literally not even 15 minutes later. If you've been debating EGR delete and coolant line delete, do it. I promise you won't regret it. Now, from what it looked like, this one back here, cylinder 6 was leaking. But hard to tell for sure. I'm going to get out the light and see if I can kind of tell better. So now that we got our injector adapter kit in, I may just change the adapter kit, see if that helps. Plenum's off. Now to take the fuel rail off. So this is what I believe to have been my problem fuel injector. It's right there on the filter screen. It was broken. And just like the rest of these, how they're squished. This one is not. So if this somewhat helps, I'll know that this was the issue and I can buy another set of these instead of taking them off another injector, because they're really not that fun to take off. Now we've got everything back together, tightened down. Quit. Hi, Rain. Hi. It's not idling crazy high. I think I'll just go take it off my car, and if that's really the problem, we'll find out. This is going to be it for this video. We actually ordered coolant temp sensor, a couple spark plugs, a couple things for some other cars so we can keep the ball rolling. But other than that, appreciate you guys for watching. Stay tuned for the next video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe down below, and we'll see you then. Peace. as Tana would say.